Hi, I'm Rachel Lancaster, and this is the Magnificent Midlife podcast. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started, and the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife, about issues that matter, and sharing fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now's our time. My guest today is Kay Newton, and Kay is the midlife strategist. She's a speaker, an author, and she helps women over 50 get their mojo back, which is what I'm all about too. She's particularly interested in what it takes to create a more simple life at any age, but especially as we get older. So I'm hoping to dive into that today. Kay, it's lovely to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rachel. It's wonderful to be here.
I know we had a few technical difficulties, didn't we? We've had to reschedule because Kay is on the island of Mallorca. Is that
Mallorca,
right?
yes.
Mallorca.
Sí, en
A-
España.
And you had some builders, didn't you, who were doing naughty things with your internet.
It's typical, isn't it? You know, you think you've got it all sorted and all sussed, and you get halfway through your first sentence with Rachel on the recording, and then the internet just disappears. And then you find out that somebody's dug a hole in the road and just destroyed the cable. 3 days we were without internet. Interesting, isn't it?
So there are limitations to a simple life, aren't there?
They
Quite
are
frankly.
limitations to a simple life. True.
But tell me, what does it mean to you to live a simple life?
So for me, it's not living minimalistically. There's a difference. So it's not about going through your wardrobe and going, okay, I'm just going to have 3 shirts and 3 pairs of trousers. My husband and I do share a wardrobe, and we do live simply, as in we do have a small amount of clothes. But it's finding the balance. I think that's between hoarding both mentally and physically, and I know we'll talk about that more in detail, and being sort of, I'm going to use the word anal about being minimalistic, you know, just not having much in your life at all. So it's finding a balance. Life is a balance.
So why do you think it's important for us to live a simple life, especially as we get a bit older?
So it's for all sorts of reasons. I mean, I really took it to heart when my father died. My mother had died 5 years beforehand. And I had his house to clear up, and they'd lived in it all their life. So there was 50, nearly 60 years of memories and stuff. And it was the realization at that point, I didn't want my kids to have to do that for me. And it was time for us to downsize our lifestyle. They'd grown and flown the nest. And so it was time for us to have no nest. And we were lucky in that we were able to go to Africa in 2015, which meant we lived in a 2-roomed, tin-roofed house by the beach. And that's when I learned about simplicity. You don't need a lot to be happy. And happiness is the key, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I can say this because my mum doesn't listen to the podcast, but I'm dreading it because my mum's house is so full of stuff. And sometimes I will tentatively try and suggest to her that she clears through some stuff. Heavens above, she hasn't been able to go out for months and she could have been clearing some stuff. And then she says, yes, but what would I do with it? I can't take it anywhere. And she has a point. So I
Yeah.
can't. But it fills me just with absolute dread, actually. And I don't live a particularly minimalist life,
Mm.
but I love it and I aspire to it. And I think it's because I have also traveled. I've crossed continents, I think 5 times, and probably 6. Otherwise, I would be somewhere else, not here. Um, but I've often not been you can't take very much with you when you do that, can you? You just can't. And then I've lived in places where I had very little space. So, I shared a room in a dormitory in China years ago, and, you couldn't have
You
anything.
can't, no.
And then I lived in a flat in Manhattan, which is the least minimalist place on the planet, but you can't have much stuff because there just isn't room.
Yeah.
If you want to move, you can't have much stuff. So I love this idea of minimalist living, and I think there's an aspect as well that, as we get older, we just don't need that mental clutter that comes with the physical clutter, do we?
It's it's this balance, isn't it? And I think because we've had so much time on the planet, we hold on to stuff. We hold on to memories, we hold on to beliefs, we have our values on top, and all this can become clutter, and you can see it in the physical life as well. When you clear out your physical life, you create space. And when you create space externally, you've got more time to spend internally making space. And to me, that's the way towards freedom, to happiness, is to, to get rid of all that no longer serves you. And it's a big task. It's a daunting task as well. When you have something happen to you, like a life event in 2015, where my husband got offered this job and we said yes, and we took 20 kilos with us, there was this realization that you actually don't need a lot in your life. Yes, when we were there, we accumulated stuff for the flat to live, like utensils and sheets, but we left that all behind. We didn't bring that back with us. But interestingly, during that time, I actually walked the Camino de Santiago as well, which is the big pilgrim walk across the top of Spain from France down to Santiago de Compostela. I walked with a 7.5 kilo bag. 20 kilos is too much. And then it's a realization that actually you can live. I lived 34 days, walked 729 kilometers with 7.5 kilos. And that was probably too much as well. And so when you've gone through that process, like you just said about living in Manhattan and living in a dormitory in China, you realize you need the bare necessities. And with that, you can be totally happy and totally functional. And the rest is just, I'm going to say it, junk. Junk we don't need to hold on to.
Yeah. I feel so liberated when I have less stuff.
Hmm.
So this is also it's gonna be a therapy session today, but, I'm gonna get you to talk to my other half because he hoards stuff. Honestly. I mean, we had a flipping extension built just so it could accommodate his grandparents' kitchen table, I mean, he won't give anything up, and I think he talks about I don't think he'll mind me sharing this. He probably will hear it, but it's alright. Don't worry, I'm not gonna say anything too bad. But, because he went to boarding school, and he went to boarding school from the age of 7, so he literally had a locker with a tuck box, and the tuck box was the only thing that could be personalized. So he had nothing. So his excuse now for accumulating everything is that he had nothing then, and I just want him to get over it, quite frankly, because, I just want a clear and clutter-free house. But it's really difficult when you have those differences in aspirations because our life experience has been very different in terms of what we could have, and also he grew up in Yorkshire, and while he didn't have stuff, his family and parents and everybody else had big rambling houses full of stuff. And now we live in London and we live in a flat in London and there isn't so much room. So how about it? You're going to come and talk to my husband?
I'll come and talk to your husband. I love that you're talking about your husband because my husband had a very similar experience. And so his parents, they were, he grew up in South Africa and they had a big rambling house by the sea in Cork Bay. And when they downsized into a bungalow, they took all their furniture with them and they put it into a bungalow. So there was
Good.
no space to move. These great big ornamental pictures and carpets and furniture that belonged in a big rambling house ended up in this little bungalow apartment. Same problem. You could see it coming the day that, they're no longer with us. It's the children who have to clear up the mess. And I think the saddest thing for us as the children is that we look at all this stuff and it doesn't have the emotional meaning that it had to them. And so what do you do with it? A lot of it just gets given away. It goes into recycling, it goes to charity, it gets dumped because you don't want it anymore. And so for me, it was this, there is a word, I think it's is it Danish, Jürgen or something, where you do the clearing up. It's called the death declutter, I
Oh,
think it
yes, I've
translates
heard of
to.
that.
And like
Yes.
you do it, you do the decluttering before death happens to you. So somebody else doesn't have to do it. And I love that concept. I love the concept of being able to leave less behind. And that then moves on to leaving less behind. I need less. I am helping the planet because I'm buying less and I'm, collecting less. And then you take on the philosophy further, which we have. I used to have a cleaning company, and we cleaned homes for the rich and famous, which was an absolutely fabulous job for their holiday homes. We used chemicals for cleaning until at such time that I've ended up with a little bit of asthma. Now we live a simple life in that our cleaning products and our personal hygiene products are all natural. Again, downsizing. So if you come to my house and you ask, can you give me something for cleaning the bathroom? It will be white vinegar, bicarbonate of soda, maybe a bit of olive oil or some essential oils. You won't find much else in my cupboard. So that to me is not minimalistic, it's simplistically, it's helping my body, helping my environment, and helping the world as well, the planet as well.
I love that idea. I know you've written for my magazine site about that, and I absolutely love it. We also have white vinegar. We don't use it exclusively, but we do use it. And I think probably I was influenced by you to start doing that. And I try and buy sort of environmentally friendly products as well. But I'm passionate about this as well because of the impact that these things have on our hormones, quite
You're
apart from just
huge.
our other health. It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think plastic's the other thing, isn't it? The more you buy that comes in plastic bottles, the more chance you've got of that hormone bending happening in your body. Because plastic's one of those things that we still don't know enough about. We know it affects our bodies, but we've just not done enough investigation to know how it's staying in our bodies and how that's affecting our hormones. So again, if you can avoid it, then do so, because it's everywhere. It's in our water, it's in our food line. You buy fish now, you think you're buying fresh fish, and yet fish is taking on the microplastics in the water, and you're eating those without even realizing. So the more we can do to simplify in everything we do, then the world will be a better place, I'm sure.
I was having a conversation the other day with a food writer, Julie Smith, and she was talking to me about the importance of sourcing food without plastic. I was asking, how can we cut out plastic? Because the supermarkets here just have so much. I mean, you can hardly buy anything that's not encased in plastic.
Yeah.
And I think certainly in the Europe continent, I can now say it is Europe because we've done Brexit. We're not part of it anymore. Oh God, that bit over there that are
Don't get me
sane and
started.
sensible and
Don't get me
yeah, I
started.
bet it's made your life complicated, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, but there's more of a tradition of the street markets. They're still there, aren't
Yeah.
they? So it's not this middle class thing that you do on a Sunday. You go to the farmer's market like you do in the UK. It's just part of day-to-day life, and you
Yeah.
go and things are not in plastic, are they?
Yeah. We have a local market stall who comes on a Saturday. I posted some pictures on my personal timeline on Saturday, on Facebook. Yeah, they come every Saturday and they bring a big market stall, and we take our basket, which is a recyclable basket. It's not one that we throw away, and we just load it up. No plastic inside. And that's the way we need to think and go back to, if we can, in everything we do. What is this action I'm taking today? And you know, we're talking about physical stuff, but this is also so important for the mindset stuff as well. What action am I taking today that's going to cause that ripple effect out? And is it the action I want to take? So important, I think. We're just so busy, we don't have time to reflect and stop. And that's what living simply gives you. It gives you the chance, gives you the space to start and really have time to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it.
And I suppose in a way there are parallels, aren't there, between our parents accumulating all this stuff and feeling in their bones that they need it. We have just accepted that we need everything we have now. Like, we need shampoo. You don't actually need shampoo. You know, they did it for thousands of years. They had nice hair without shampoo, but we don't question those things, do we? And then we have big bottles of shampoo. And then, of course, because we've got shampoo, we have to have conditioner. And because it strips all the natural oils out of the hair and all of that. So we've stopped questioning, haven't we? We just assume that this is the way it is, so this is what we need, and we can't function without it.
And it's that I think what you've just said, Rachel, is so important. Questioning. And how do you question if you're so busy in your life and you've got no time to have a little bit of a think about things and how you're doing things? And that becomes, it's this vicious circle, really, or spiral downward, whatever you want to call it. You know, you're in this mode and you're operating on this level. And if you keep doing it and don't question, then nothing will change. And right now, there's so much we can do to make change. And the change comes from within. It's us stopping and questioning and doing what we feel is right, not what society tells us we should be doing, which is another thing. You know, it's this big thing about being strong and true to who you are, especially at our age, this magnificent midlife. You know, we have to create that magnificence, because if we don't, it won't exist. You know, we don't want to get in our rocking chairs in our 80s, 85, 90, 100 even, and say, if only at 50 I'd done this, my life would be so different.
And actually, you know, we as an army of midlife and beyond women, we could have a massive impact on this whole
Huge,
situation, couldn't we? If
huge.
we take the initiative and we start, you know, think of the women's movement, you know, in the
Yeah.
60s, we could actually have the midlife women's movement, and we're fighting ageism, but we're also fighting all the stuff that the world has accepted that actually isn't good for the world. And we know it's not good for the world because we're old enough and wise enough and ugly enough to have realised that it's not good for the
No, we're not
world.
ugly. I'm sorry. We're all absolutely
Oh, it's just
beautiful
a
and
phrase.
amazing.
It's just a phrase, you know. I don't believe that at all, you know me.
I
But
know.
it's just a phrase, you
Yeah,
know.
I think you know, when you look at the Dalai Lama, I love his quote. He said somewhere along the line, you know, of the Western women will change the world. And I've added to that. So what's the biggest demographic of the Western world? It's the baby boomers. It's the women over 50, over 55. You know, we are the biggest. You know, if change is going to happen, I've got goose pimples again now. Every time I say this, I get goose pimples. If we're going to make change, it's up to us to do it. So we don't need to do a big movement. You know, we don't need to stand in the streets and chain ourselves to railings as such.
Can't we? Can't we do that?
You can if you want. But the biggest movement comes from you doing those individual step-by-step processes. Just like walking the Camino, you've got to take step by step to get there. What am I going to change today? I am going to look at my personal hygiene products. Let me see what's in it. Let me get rid of. Cleaning products. What can I do that's going to help the world? Shopping. Am I going to keep going to the supermarket and buying stuff with plastic on them? Or am I going to find another source? And on it goes. Every time we take a step forward to change, we create change.
And then I think we need to talk about it, don't we? We
Yeah.
need to tell other people what we're doing, and without forcing them, try and inspire them, I suppose, to take similar action.
It's if you think about it, many years ago, we just assumed buying a plastic bag in the supermarket was the thing you did. And then people started going, hang on a minute, plastic bags are really a waste. They're doing the planet no good. They're killing a lot of wildlife. Let's stop using them. And now we take notice in relation to plastic bags. We take our supermarket shopping bags with us. We can do that with everything, but we can only do that if we start questioning what we're doing. And as you say, then you need to have a group of confident people around you who can question you back, reflect what you've said, and help you make really good choices from their experiences. So yeah, it does having a group of like-minded people around you is really important.
I'm getting goosebumps too. I'm just thinking, this is where we can fully embrace the power.
Yeah, it's an individual, unique thing. So if we do the work individually, we're doing it collectively.
And what steps can we also take to reduce our mental clutter when we get to this stage of life?
Yeah, loads. And I'm wary of time, so I won't go too mad. But, I know you do a load of work with your ladies in relation to helping them find themselves. And I use a different model, but it's a similar process in a way, a similar outcome. I use a technique I call the life table. And it's a life audit, really. And I just help them go through the whole holistic look at their lifestyle as it is now, so that they can see how it works, and then they can change what they need to change. So if you think of an old-fashioned table, a bit like you were telling me your husband built the extension for, it's a big, long table with 4 legs, and it's very sturdy. So if you don't have a sturdy table, whatever life throws at you, it's going to be a bit wobbly. So how do you create a sturdy table? The table has 5 parts to it. It has 4 legs: health, wealth or financial flow, connections and knowledge. And then the big tabletop is knowing yourself. So if you look at your, let's say your health, you take everything that you do in your life and you really look at it. Are you sleeping well? Are you eating well? Have you got the right positive people around you? Have you got rid of the negativities? All those types of questions. You can see in the area of health what needs to be evaluated and maybe changed. Wealth, financial flow, what's coming in and what's coming out, finances. Do you know your finances? Do you know where you stand? Do you know whether you can retire next year or next week, or whether you can live to 100 safely, etc.? But involved in wealth is also your community. So what do you do that gives you joy? What do you give to other people that brings joy back to you? Connections. This makes me laugh because I've done this so many times with clients, and I say to them, do you know 30 people off the top of your head who you can contact if you need something urgently? And people start counting and they get to about 5, maybe to 10. And then they have a bit of a wobbly in their faces. If I had a camera right then, I'd take a photograph. 30 people. Why do we need 30 people at this age group? Because we've all got shit on our plates. So, your top 5 are probably dealing with parents who've got Alzheimer's, boomerang kids, you name it, and they haven't got time for you. So you've got to have a wide circle of influence that you can get to. Knowledge, big. We've got so much to offer, so much to give, but you've got to know what are your skills, and they're not what you've got qualifications for quite often. So what are you good at? What would you like to learn? And what do you hate and need help with? Because then you can give that to other people. And then knowing yourself inside and out is really, really important, to be confident in who you are. And confidence is a really interesting thing at our age. You'd think that now we've got to the crone stage of life, and we can say what we like and be who we want to be, and we won't lack confidence. And yet so many women are lacking that. So part of the confidence comes from knowing who you are. Once you do that, living true to yourself, living true to your intuition will make your table stronger. So that's it in a very brief summary of what I do and how I work with people on the
I love that.
internals.
It's very powerful and such an easy image to think of and work out,
It's
with
simple,
people.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's very simple. And the most powerful things are often the simplest.
Less is more, this is the big
Mm.
thing, if you can get that into your head, whatever we do, whatever's going on inside our heads, it's not just physically, it's also mentally. Less is more. The more space you give yourself, the more in flow you become, the more powerful you are. And we have to tap into that power right now. The world needs us.
Yeah, you and I definitely believe that. The world
Mm.
does need us. I think I
Yeah.
need to put a quick caveat in, though. We did get 2 extra bedrooms, which are rather nice with the just the table. I was being slightly facetious there, but sorry, darling. Oh. Otherwise I'll get into real trouble. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I love that whole idea. I think midlife is that time when it just makes absolute sense, and we have to do it. We have to sit back and think and look and reevaluate and recalibrate and reconnect, all of those words and refocus, because we've had one life and hopefully we're going to have another quite different life, and that really excites me. But if we don't take the time, we'll get unstuck, won't we? We'll just get into a mess, I think.
I always think about, this is going to sound really funny now, Ryanair. She's going to go, what? Where did that come from? So do you know when you book a ticket on Ryanair and it asks you for your birthday?
I don't know. I can't remember that.
No, I know.
When was
You
that?
must remember how you book a ticket. And you have to put in your birthday, and
An airline ticket.
you
What
have to
was that?
you have to scroll for absolutely ages to find your birthday. Well, I do. It seems to take forever. And I think, wow, all those years, and quite a lot of that, you can't recollect, you can't remember. They're just days that have disappeared one into the other. That's part of life. I get that, but also that there's this feeling that how many more days are you going to scroll for? It's this big question, if you find yourself longing for something, now is the time to act. Not tomorrow, not to think about it. It's to do it now while you can.
Something that had a profound impact on me when I was, going on my own personal journey after the early menopause. I spent my 40s kind of, oh, who am I now? What am I doing? Was I discovered something called a life clock on the internet. Have you ever done those? You literally,
Scary.
it is scary, but it's also really empowering, because it gives you a date as to when you are likely to die. And, if you stop drinking alcohol, it gives you another 5 years. And it's like, oh, right, okay. Or if you're smoking, it, knocks off 10 or whatever. So you have to put in certain things about yourself, not masses of detail, and where you live, obviously, because that's going to have a big impact. And then it makes a calculation. And to see the things quite so clearly, what is impacting, your longevity, was quite stark. And I've often talked about the fact that, my father's ill health in later life, and it wasn't that later, really. He died at 75, and the last 10, 12 years of his life were pretty awful. So that's starting my husband's age now. But he never looked after himself. He didn't take care of himself. He was a very sad man. He hadn't, reached what he wanted to reach in terms of his career, and that was everything to him. And he didn't. I mean, I guess, it's different for men anyway, but he he wasn't able to adapt, he wasn't able to evolve. He just seemed to get sort of stuck in a moment. Whereas my mum has spent the last 25 years, she keeps reinventing herself, and I love that about her. You know, she will do this thing and then that thing and do something else, and that I think is so important to us, to people, but I think particularly women, that if we are able to adapt to circumstances, we're able to keep growing, and that's the key thing, isn't it? We want to keep growing, not stagnating.
Yeah, we do. And as you say, if you do that life audit and you do the knowledge section of it, it'll give you a really good insight into where you could probably go next. You know, maybe you wanted to be that ballerina when you were 6 years old. Who's to stop you going to dance classes now? Maybe you wanted to be an artist and the teacher told you could never draw. Now you realize when you were 7 years old, you're no longer that 7-year-old. You've got so much experience. What's to stop you from drawing? What's to stop you from being part of your community, changing your community, teaching kids how to grow plants, whatever it is? Because you've done that audit, you know what you can offer and where you can take yourself. And change is definitely the only constant in the universe. So you might as well make use of it. You definitely take on the challenge of something new, definitely.
So do you have any daily practices or rituals or things that you do regularly to sort of keep you on track?
I go through phases, to be honest. I have to be honest. So
I do too.
it's winter at the minute. So my go-to is hibernation. And I think that's also part of COVID as well. I like to read a little bit. I like to contemplate a little bit. I like to go down to the ocean and walk alongside the sea in the mountains if I can. But at the minute, today we're 5 degrees warmer, so it's a little bit different. But it's been my duvet, to be honest. I've just wanted to stay inside my duvet and be nice and warm. And that's I think for the first time, because I haven't had to go, okay, kids to school, off to work, do this, do that. I've actually loved being able to go, do you know what? I don't have to get up today. I will, but it will be in 5 minutes' time instead of, oh my God, I'm late, blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I think listening to yourself is part of the key and being in tune with yourself. So if your body's saying it's rest time, and we live in a 4 seasons area of the planet, so why not take use of it and enjoy it?
I think that resting element is so important, isn't it? I'm not used to doing it. I'm used to being on the go all the time, whether I'm working for somebody or myself. And I know my mum's the same. You know, she'll even say, even now in lockdown, she feels guilty for reading a book in the middle of the day. I'm like, what's going on? What's that about? But we do put these silly things on ourselves, don't we? And yeah, we kind of have an excuse now to not do that, don't we?
Well, whether you want to call it an excuse or not, you know, it's nice to be able to connect back to nature and to really connect to. Right now, we're coming into a full moon. You know, I do find the full moon affects me in weird and wonderful ways. Tap into that instead of going, oh, you know, the full moon affects me in really weird ways. It's an exciting time. Winter, it's a perfect time to sit and reflect and think about what you want to do in the spring. And come spring, you know, you've already got your ideas well formatted and thought about. Then you can go and often start doing springy things. So, yeah.
So tell me more about the moons, because I was actually talking to a lady the other day, and we're highly cyclical before menopause. And I have not noticed being particularly cyclical post-menopause, but she encouraged me to think about the moon and to try and track how I felt with the moon. And I was like, yeah, I'm open to everything, you know, All right, let's go the moon phases. So tell me more.
I can't tell you a great deal because it's not my speciality. I can tell you that I was born on a full moon. And so full moons have always affected me in that I do feel their power and their strength. And it's a really good time for me to look back at the month beforehand and go, okay, so, what did I achieve? And what do I want to let go of? And those are two questions that I will be asking myself today. What have I done this last month? That helps me then focus on what I can do this next month. And then also the big question is, what do I want to let go of? And that goes with the simplicity as well. This idea of what can I do that allows me to let go of something. It can be physical, it can be mental, that allows the next month to be even more productive.
And do you instinctively know when the full moon is coming?
Yes and no. The full moon here where we live, we're very lucky because we have the mountains and the moon is above the mountains on a night. The place is lit. You cannot miss it. It is there.
Wow.
It's huge. So yes, I know it's there. Last night I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning and it was like daylight in the apartment. The moon shines beautifully. So do I instinctively know? I can see it. So yeah, I suppose I do.
Yeah, because I have to go looking for it in London. It's like, okay, where is it? Okay, beyond. If I know it's there, I'll make an effort to go and look. It's like, well, there's buildings and there's all the smog, and I can't really see it. Where is it? I have to believe it's there.
Yeah, no, we're very fortunate. Most full moon evenings you can see it. Not everyone, obviously, because we do get bad weather, but most it's there. It's very visible, very bright.
So what's it like going through lockdown on a Spanish island?
So for me, because I work from home and have done for 15 years plus, nothing really has changed. My husband retired in summer last year, so we've had virtually lockdown has been getting to know each other and the new regime for retirement as such. The island's for us here in this little village, it's the same. Nothing really has changed. Okay, we don't go and have coffee out because there's no bars open. We don't go and eat out. But apart from that, everything's very similar. So very, very fortunate, very grateful for that.
Yeah, nice place to be for lockdown, I should imagine.
Yeah, very much so.
So what's your best advice for a woman who is perhaps struggling a bit in midlife, isn't really sure what to do next, and is too busy and in a bit of a fluster? What's your best advice?
So I was talking to a client about this last week, and I think the thing is, you have to make the decision that you're going to change. You're going to make a choice of change. And then you have to then decide how you want to do that change. And the change can be as simple as going and standing in nature for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, gradually increasing the time so that you don't really realize you've done it. Because that's the other thing, if you turn around and say, okay, I'm too busy, I've got to find an hour. Okay, I'm going to slot in an hour here. Then it becomes a real burden because you're already regretting the fact that this hour of space is taking over an hour of busy time. So how can you do it? To me, the best way is to do it gradually, step by step. And really start and think, use that space time to really think, to contemplate what you would like to change in your life. And then start and take those tiny little steps to change, whether it's opening one drawer, decluttering it, whether it's sitting down and doing the life audit, whether it's thinking about, does this belief I have really work for me now? Can I move on from this? It's just taking those tiny steps.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share it, and leave me a review wherever you're listening. It really helps me get the message out. You can find out more information about this episode in the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you'll find strategies, support and resources to help make your midlife magnificent. Get clarity on how to make the most of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.